So I'm going to jump into our training, which is I'm going to talk about building our community. So we start out with figuring out our media plan and our outline. We talked about filming and I hope that this doesn't seem out of order, but I don't feel like it is because the filming really goes with that social media aspect. And in tier one, that's why we have you build, make sure you have a social media platform, and we encourage a social media community, a group, a Facebook group. It doesn't have to be a Facebook group. It's just easy to set up there. And so when you are building your community, and this comes back to your media plan, it's really important to know when you're building your course in your community what that is going to look like. And how you're going to know what it needs to look like is based on your avatar and what they're going to need, what they're going to want. Also, your subject, like what are you teaching that people are going to want? So for example, if you are doing a course or a community that is based on people helping each other, like connection, women connecting with women, then yeah, you're going to need some kind of community that can facilitate easy connection, right? Where they can either see each other face to face, they can engage in each other's posts, they can have a discussion. Okay, so there's that. There's also a type of community where you might want to do more where it's just a couple times a month we hop on as a group, we do that, a Q&A. Is it just connection with you? Is it more of a teaching atmosphere? I'm going to teach you things. And you can do this in a multiple way. So you've got to, first of all, and you come up with your title. So let me see. Let's go back to that though. Let's talk about that engagement first. So that's what I would say is what kind of groups. I'm going to tell you a couple different options of groups that you can do. And there are so many, just like anything, there are a ton of things out there. I was just researching yesterday project management systems and task management and CRMs, and the lists are endless. So I'm just going to give you a couple examples. So the kind of communities that you could have, I've mentioned a Facebook group. Okay, it's easy. It's also easy to regulate because you can set up rules, you can be the admin, you can set up somebody else to help admin with you, you can moderate things, you can approve posts, like you can really filter who comes in and out. A lot of people don't love Facebook. They're trying to get away from Facebook, but a lot of people come back to Facebook just because it is the biggest thing out there. The other way you can do it is we have a gal in our DTLC that what she did is she hosts retreats, and how she keeps people connected is they join a WhatsApp. So right, that's still connected to Facebook, but you don't have to be in Facebook to use it, right? You just download it on their phone. That's what we use in our DTLC circle, is that kind of messaging app where it's more of a messaging app, less of a get on a platform app. There's also another platform that I've been recently learning about, and it's called Circle. And it is, and I was just looking it up to give you guys some details about it. And they tout that, okay, it's an all-in-one community. You can do membership up here. You can do live webinars. You can have calendars. You can do live streams, like all of those things you can do on there. And I know that there are places, like if you're going to do a course platform, like I know like MemberVault, and I don't know about Thinkific or those other places if they're trying to integrate it, but I know MemberVault's looked at integrating that in there. However, it's still two different subscriptions. So there is that, but you could look at Circle, look at the different of what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what platform would be best for that. The other thing to think about is not only, what kind of connections you want, but what is sustainable for you? Because the one thing is, like on Facebook, you could make it where you're posting and things, or you could have somebody else do baseline posting for you. And you just have to get on and look at the comments and engage that way and do a live every once in a while. It can be on the fly, right? It doesn't take a lot of management. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question about when you have somebody posting for you? Is there, and I guess I haven't researched this yet, but is there a way to give people like a limited way to post? Like if I, since I hired that social media gal, do I have to give her my login in order to do that? Or
No, no. Yeah, good question. Actually, what you do is you go in on the back and make sure that she's a part of your group.
okay,
And then you can make her an admin or an editor or moderator. Like you can do it, they have different levels. So you can add her as that. And then that way she can post. Now, if you are the brand of your group, then you want to make sure you have like a Facebook page connected with that would be your name, right? Or whatever your brand is. So like for instance, I'll just use Angela Myers, right? So she's got Kudos for Families is her brand name. So she can have a Facebook page that's Kudos for Families. And then in her group that's Kudos for Kids, she could be posting as Kudos for Families. Does that make sense? Like that could be
yes.
the profile page. So the way you do that is you need to make sure that first of all you're friends with that person on Facebook, whoever you want to be your moderator or your admin, and then you want to make sure they're following you,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and that they're a part of your group. And then you go in on the backside of your page. So I actually just barely did this for somebody in our organization. So I went on the back end of our Connie Sokol business page and I made her an admin or a moderator. And then she's also that way in our group. So then she can post as Connie Sokol. She doesn't have to post as her own name. She can post as Connie Sokol. And so you could have that if it's posting as this person. So it won't be your personal profile. It will be your business profile.
Yeah. Can we do the same thing on Instagram? Do you know? If I set up
Uh,
a group on Instagram.
what you would do there is you would go into your back end of Facebook and your Meta Business Suite
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then schedule out through there. And then she could schedule, if you have your Instagram page connected to your Facebook business page,
Mm-hmm.
she can schedule on the back end that way.
Okay.
And that's a good way to do it because then you can also track engagement, you can track posts, you can do videos through that back end. And I just did a training in my office hours on that yesterday. So there's that question. Okay, so I'm gonna hop back here. So
Sorry. I'm
no, you're
sorry if I
good.
derailed a little bit there. I had that question.
No, that's a great question. Okay, the other, okay, so we talked about Facebook groups, WhatsApp, Circle, or are you just going to use something like Zoom where you're going to send an email and people are just going to hop on once a month, twice a month, but then you're pretty much managing through email. It's kind of, it's not super it would be one-time connecting if that makes sense, but it's not necessarily a personal touch. It will feel personal maybe for them, like seeing you. So examples would be, and then you have to decide, is this a membership or is this just that group? And so we'll talk about that in a minute. Or is your community basically sending them to your social media to follow you there? And that is probably the lowest touch you could probably do, to say, okay, just come follow me here, be a part of this. Typically that would be the lowest, to say, come follow me here, and they become a part of your following, right? The next step up would be that catch-all Facebook group. Everybody come in here and then we just kind of all support each other, or Zoom, or that monthly Zoom, if that makes sense. So those are kind of there. And then going up to, a more of a connection when people can directly respond, and what, if that makes sense. So you just have to decide what kind you want. Now with that being said, okay, so once you decide that, you've got to make sure you have a good name for your community. Okay, so, and it goes back to that staircase we talk about. So let me give you an example. In Connie's community, I know with many different, when I first joined, started following Connie, it was like Connect with Connie or something like that. Okay. She also had, or a Back to Basics community was her original brand. Then we changed it, the whole community, to Balance Redefined, because that was kind of her brand, is redefining balance. And then we moved it to Purpose Filled Women, because we realized, no, we're looking for those women who are looking for purpose, who have a message to share, they've got purpose. And then recently, as we fully rebranded to Disciple Thought Leaders, like that is our big thing, we had to ask ourselves, okay, well, are we changing the name of our community? And we said no, because, and we went back and forth on this. And part of it is because we realized we're looking for women who feel called to a purpose, and they will resonate with that. And then our goal in our community is to basically raise disciple thought leaders. We're looking for them. We're preparing them to become DTLs. That's what we're preparing them for. So you got to make sure you know what is that outcome of your community. What is your hope? And now the community we have is a free community. Okay, so that's where we lead everybody from social media to there. And even some of our lower end courses, our value offerings, they all go into that community. But when they come into our course or our subscription community as a disciple thought leader, and they're paying that, you notice they have a very different community. That community is one where we touch every day, right? We have that ongoing chat. We have a separate Facebook group that's specific to the content in there. And the only way to be in that group is if you are a paying subscribed member, if that makes sense. But in Purpose Filled Women, that's anybody who requests to join, that we approve their request if we feel like they're in our avatar. I just used this the other day. We've been having people request to join our group that are looking to pass an insurance exam, because we asked, why do you want to join? And we're like, there's another Connie Sokol in this country that teaches insurance, obviously, because that's not what this group is about. So that person's not going to find value. They're not going to find what they're looking for, right? Or you have some random guy join and we're like, this is not for you. So those kinds of things we monitor. But in that DTL group, our engagement looks different. We connect once a week on a call where we're all on. We're doing Marco Polos. We're doing WhatsApp. Does that make sense? So that when you get to your course and community, what does that need to look like? But you need to have something established where it's going to be, and that's why I say start simple. Like when we first started, everybody went into that Purpose Filled Women, everybody, even if they're doing those other courses. And then it wasn't until we, built another stair, we moved our staircase and we created that high-end subscription community, if that makes sense. So if you're going to do a subscription community, you really want something where they can connect. Another example of that is, and I haven't been into a couple of these, but we'll just use a couple examples. One is, so I follow Carol Tuttle. She has a community that you can get on. You can follow her on Facebook. She gives a lot of great content. But if you subscribe to her lifestyle community, you get like personal one-on-one where she profiles you, she helps you, you get content to all of her access on the back end. Okay. But you can join, there's another group you can join where she has a book that if you've read this book, you can be in there and get advice, but she won't go specific on personal advice unless you're in this membership group. Okay. So that type of thing, you're like, okay, how is this looking here? So something to think about is it a free group or is it a group that they only get access to because they paid for it? So if that makes sense.
Well, and it sounds like you start with the free group and then you filter out those who want to subscribe. And I think that's the same model that I'm going to be using with my Women Warriors of Light, is start with a free group, but then offer.
And then you have to think exactly what is it that's in that offering that is not here, but it builds on what starts here. And that is the big thing. So you have to think of your avatar, right? That's what we're saying, that Purpose-Filled Women is any woman who's looking for a purpose-filled life can come in there, right? But those disciple thought leaders, but the reason you need that community is there's a couple of reasons you need a community. And I probably should have started with this, but number one is that is where you're going to get your returning customers. First of all, you get your customers, but you're going to get your returning customers. That's where you're going to get your referrals, because they're going to see, oh, people need to be in this group. This is how you're going to share. It's also how you're going to share when you have new content. So if you do not have a free community, you really need one. If you don't have one, but you have an active social media and you have following, then when they subscribe to you, then still give them that subscription content, because then they will still tell people, oh, go subscribe to this. And so that's where you decide, depending on what that offering is that subscription community. So if it's like a $20 a month community, you know, people getting in, what are you giving them? You're probably going to be doing those high touches where you might do a live webinar, or you're going to do it just for that community, maybe once a month. If it's a higher end program, like that kind of high end coaching, then you're going to need to be doing a special kind of Zoom, like where you're doing more consistent once a week, something or more than that, if that makes sense. So you really got to decide that, but you have to build it. You have to nurture it. You got to cultivate the atmosphere that you want it to be. And for those outcomes that you want, it should all align with your one big message and the outcomes for your women. Even that free community up to that subscription community should do that. So that free community should be, okay, well, we're training disciple thought leaders. So guess what? We want to find people who find their purpose, that want that. And then in this subscription community, well, they're getting specific to my outcomes, that they're becoming writers, speakers, media presences, right, for him.
So so it's all under the same one big message. So you need to make sure that your one big message encompasses both the growth from little down here to the top person, because that is probably one of the places I'm having the biggest challenge, is that I know where I want to start and I see where I want it to end. And I don't think my one big message encompasses both. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So start with that first one below, like where you grow that community, if you have it, of what it is. But then you have to think, well, where am I leading that? So Connie had a one big message that was, I help women lead purposeful, organized, and joyful lives. And then we added for him on there, right? And then it became, but what we're really looking for are disciple thought leaders to help them to actually really make that impact. But we had to start there. We called it the Podge Life, right? We had to start in the Podge Life first to get people there. And their purpose is still like, that's still the crux of everything for us. So if you have that one thing, like what is that pain point that you're looking for in your massive community? If we're looking for women who are stressed out, right? Because you're going to help them plug into it. Now, what happens when they plug into it? Where are you leading them? Right. And so if it's becoming that subscription, you might be there nurturing, okay, I'm going to give you tools. Now, if you really want coaching to move forward, then you're going to join the subscription group where I can give you that coaching. Does that make sense? So you got to think, what's that next thing that's going to get there? And you want it to match whatever it is your offering is for that, your course. So for example, we've got several different types of courses being built right here. It's what are you going to offer? And then how long are you going to offer it for? Is it that they can do a month-to-month subscription? Is it a year-long subscription, right? Many people like to do that month-to-month thing. It could be for as long as a course. We've done that before, where we've done a 6-week course and you get a weekly call for 6 weeks. Okay. We've done a 12-week course. You get a weekly call for 12 weeks. Now those prices go up, right? As we tier those. Then there's also, depending on how in depth you get it. We've also done those where, hey, you're going to buy this course that's like a week long. You can hop on a live with me, a free Q&A once a month on this day. You can do that as well. We've done that too. And so you just have to think, what does that look like? What can you sustain? That is the biggest question. So for example, we have one DTL who she's building this course, and she says, okay, at the end of my course, I want to offer them to be able to have 2 Q&A calls with me. I'm like, great. And I said, how often are you going to do that? And she had to think for a minute. And she's like, well, do I do it? I'm like, do you do it every week? Or do you say, I hold 2 calls every month on the first and third Thursday of the month, right? And then you just have to build in that they can hop on those, if that makes sense. So then they would, and then there is back end stuff of how we make sure that they're only on 2, but that would be the biggest thing is you've got to decide. So what is it that you want from your community? What are the outcomes that you want? Is this a community do you have your baseline community, your free one? Or is this one that it's a subscription? Like what kind of feel do you want? And who's your avatar? Because we can see by who's coming into that free community, we kind of get an idea of, oh, what's the age range here, right? What's the demographic? And so we could have just called it a purpose-filled life, but then who would have come in? It could be anybody, but we're looking specifically to help women. So we called it purpose-filled women. So when you pick your title, make it specific to catch those who are looking for that. Okay, it's going to be the pain point or ideal life, and it's going to be specific so they know that it's for them. Okay.
I just had a really good idea here. And if you're making even the free community, kind of like you were saying, and you have them fill out a survey before you let them in, that you could even ask them, what's your pain point for joining? And that would give you ideas of what you can address.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that's what we'll say. Why are you joining this? And some will say, I'm here just for this challenge, and they'll come in for the challenge and then they'll leave. But guess what? That's okay. They came what they wanted to come for. Some will say, I'm looking to connect with other like-minded women. Boom. And I'm looking for those points that I know my qualifying points for my DTLs, if that makes sense. Or I'm looking for that qualifying, but exactly like you said. So some good questions to ask. For us, we like to know the age range of the women coming in because that's given us an idea of who's seeking that. Sometimes you can ask for their email if you're willing to take their email and input it into your email system. And some places you can hook on. Facebook, what you can do is if they're already on your email list, you can pre-approve them. So when they come into your group, they're already pre-approved because they've already opted into something. The other question we ask is exactly that. So what are you hoping to gain from this group? Now we have another detail. She's creating just her baseline Facebook community, and she's asking them very specific questions because of what her subject matter is. And so she's asking, are you or somebody you know going through this situation now? Right. And that helps her to know, okay, that's who I need in here. I don't want somebody else in here who's just like, oh, what's this about? Where she's like, no, I'm looking for those specific people. So, but that community. So that's what I say. So we have that baseline, but you've got to have something different if you're going to have that other community that's connected to your course. Okay. And so if you don't have a community now, start thinking about what that looks like, how you want to facilitate it. Because if you don't have a who to help you with that yet, it's going to be on you. So you got to decide, what can I sustain and what can I do? And eventually, as your business grows, you can get those who's that can help you with that. Okay. So then the other thing is looking at building, and this is just touching on this briefly again, where you want to build your course. And do they have the capability to have a community within it? Or is it something you have to tack on? And a lot of times you have to tack them on, but those are the different things you could look at if you want to all-in-one. Now, the more all-in-one they have, the more expensive it's going to get. Okay. But however, so one thing just to keep in mind is, well, what do they offer, or what are they going to be offering in the future? So what are they going to grow? So that's just something to keep in mind. I was going to show you.
Hey, I was just going to ask you a question with regards to that, because I noticed that I went to Member Vault and I was kind of looking at it, and they're going to be upping their prices dramatically, like next month.
So if you want their legacy pricing,
yeah,
either you pay to become a lifetime member right now before April 1st, which can be about $800. but you're like, okay, I paid for it. And here's, so this, I was going to answer this question anyway for you.
Oh, good.
So Member Vault has so much capability. And I will tell you, we came into it because they were still pretty new, and they were still, and you can get that smaller pricing and have that. But if you're going to grow, you're going to really grow, or you have that idea that you want to grow big, then think that way. Now, hopefully it means that the whole idea of their pricing changing is that they want you to have income coming in, right? They want to facilitate that. What I have seen, and I've only worked with MemberVault. I've done 2 platforms. One was within WordPress, like we host there. The other one has been within MemberVault. So I have to tell you, I have a limited working on the background. A lot of people moved over to MemberVault because they like their capabilities. They also really love their customer service. Their founders are on their group all the time talking. Okay. And they have affiliates, they have people that you can hire out. They share things. They have a podcast. They're also looking at, this is one reason I tell people, if you don't have a website, MemberVault can become your website. It can become your one-stop shop. They're going to be building in blogging in there. They have built in, before they just had, okay, here's our landing page where we have all of our courses. Now they're building in separate pages so that like you can have a different page in there. They're doing different kinds of content, things that I haven't even tapped into yet, but that are there. We've used it for our opt-ins where we've connected it to, so Connie has her website and this, but it's going to become like a DTL page. So if we have our DTLs come in and they have an offer, we can post it on there, if that makes sense, and it can link it to their site. But we have free opt-ins in there. We have courses. Anytime we've done a webinar, if that makes sense, that's where we house everything. So it just depends on what you want. So I'm one of those, I'm like, if you look at it, see what the capabilities are, and you're like, okay, I like this, then yeah, get their legacy pricing so you can secure that now before April 1st. And they've had a lot of talk on their Facebook page about it. A lot of people really upset about the change, but I have watched Mike and Aaron, who are the couple that founded it and do it. And I have watched them just kind of on the sidelines, see how they interact. And I'm just blown away by what they do. So, and they started out just like us, these little small businesses, and they're growing. And so, but that's what happened. So I would just kind of sit with it, pray with it, see, is that where I want to be? And if you have a free trial, see how user-friendly is this for me? Find the one that you like and that works for you. That is what I'm going to say about platforms, because there are so many out there. So my favorite thing to do, and I will just tell you this, I'll just show how I like to do these quick searches where I will just do a Google search that says online course platforms. Now I try to make sure, now I got to make sure this person is not like because he says, oh, his favorite one is Thinkific, right? I try really hard to find some that are, they're not paid affiliates. I don't know if he is or not, but you can see, it will say, oh, the best one is Kajabi. And then you see, oh, it's Kajabi's like website. So I really like to find ones that do that. I've done it before with, so like this site, I went to like, it was like software advice, and I compared like several different workflows, and it will show me, okay, here's what it offers, here's what it does. Now, if you're not a researcher like that, then I would just say, okay, which one could I go to and is easy for me? But that's what I say. You look at this, okay, which one says it's easy? Then I'll get in and just do that. That's me. I'm like, you want to find what works for you and what you feel like you can sustain. So does that answer your question there?
Yeah, it does. And I think that's been one of the questions I've had all along is, which site do I use? Because Squarespace is just starting into it, and that's who hosts my website. And so I'm like, capabilities are still very, very basic as far as hosting on Squarespace. And so I'm just like, oh. Yeah, after seeing what you guys do, and I've taken other courses before as well. And so it's trying to decide, what do I want and what's going to be the best thing to grow with. and I'm figuring that out.
Yeah. And that's a hard one to decide. Right. And so, but yeah, find one and then go. And that's the one thing is a lot of times you can always switch. It is hard though, if you've like built out all your courses one place and that's where it is. And you're like, okay. But if you have, that's why I tell people when you build your courses, you build it and you save those videos on a platform that you can take in, put them somewhere else. That's why we use Vimeo on the back end, is because then if, let's say we decide we don't want to use MemberVault anymore because it's not working for us and we want to move to a different platform, then guess what? I still have my main video and it's not, and that's why MemberVault, their whole platform is that they want you to own your own content. They don't want to own your content. They want it to be yours. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking is who has that copyright, who owns that content. So, whereas like if you host it on Facebook, if you get shut down on Facebook and you built, because you can build courses out on Facebook within your group, it can be a learning community. But if you post them all in there and that's, you just do your lives and you only do them in there as your course, if for some reason Facebook shuts you down or something like that, guess what? You've just lost all of your stuff. So,
although you can download the videos you put up.
Yeah, if you can get it, that's what I'm saying. But if it crashes or something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, so those are just some thoughts there. So hopefully, I know we kind of did community plus other things.